Hi, meet Mr. MUDENDA'S online lessons where we are looking at the first topic of grade 9 mathematics, that is square roots and cube roots. So when we talk about the square root, we are just talking about a number that is multiplied by itself two times to get a certain product. Okay? In other words, we are saying the square root of a number is the inverse operation of squaring a number. The square of a number is the value that is obtained when we multiply the number by itself. For example, okay, we can say 2 times 2. Okay, this is example 1. You can say 2 times 2, which is going to give us 4. Okay, so we are saying that by squaring these two, this same example here, it is the same as if you say 2 squared, then the answer will still give us what? 4. Okay, the square of a number is the value that is obtained when we multiply the number by itself. So here we multiplied 2 times. Hence, 2 squared, it gave us 4. And 2 times 2, it's the same as 2 squared. It gave us 4 there. This is what we mean by the square of a number. You multiply the number by itself how many times? 2. Then the value you get, that is the square of the inverse square of the given number. Okay, while the square root of a number is obtained by finding a number that when squared gives the original number. Now, what this means here is that when we say the square of a number, it's an original number that we have been given. In this case, we have 2. We squared 2 and then we found 4. But in this case, so in other words, when we say the square of a number, we multiply this given number 2, how many times? 2 times. By itself multiplied 2 times, it gives us the value 4. But if we say the square root, okay? The square root of a number, we are talking about squaring the number in order to get the original value. The square root of a number is obtained by finding a number that when squared gives the original number. Now, before we got this 4, remember that we had to square 2 by itself to give us 4. But in this case, if we say, what is the square root of 4? Okay, so I'll say this is second example. What is the square root of 4? The square root of 4, and the square root, by the way, it is denoted by this symbol. You put the number inside. So we're going to say, what is the square root of 4? What do we mean here? We want to find the original number, which when we multiply that number 2 times, it will give us 4. That is what we mean by saying the square root. But then, we will not just guess. If I say that number, it is 2. Someone might ask a question to say, but how did you get that 2? Okay, how did you get that 2? So, here's what do I do? I'm going to say, okay, since we have the square root of 4 there, what do we do to find the original number? We can break down this 4 into 2. Okay, what numbers are they that when we multiply this 4, when we multiply that number, it will give us 4. We are going to say, okay, this is the same as you say the square root 2 times 2. The moment you have 2 numbers in the square root which are the same, that is the square root of the original number that you have been given, which is in this case 4. Therefore, since we have 2 same numbers in the square root multiplying, these 2 numbers gives us 4. Hence, we say 2 is the square root of 4. Okay, I'm sure that is clear. Okay, therefore we are going to say, take this point, I'll say if if 4 if 4 sorry, not 4, if 2 is the square, if 2 is the square root, of 4, okay, I'll say therefore 2 times 2 equals 4. So this is just the summarizing point of those two examples that I gave. Okay. But then, what is a square root? What is a square root? A square root, we are just saying this is a number. The square root of a number is that factor of a number which, when multiplied by itself, gives the original number. This is just the, like that area said, that first example I gave to say 2 times 2, it gives us 4. So the square root of 4 gives us the original number, and what is that number? That number, it is 2, which means before 4 was given, there was a certain original number which gave us 4, and that is the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, if we look at example 3 here, okay, if I say what is the square root of 16, okay, these are just simple digits that I'm giving you just to make you understand the simplest way you can go about finding the square root of a number. Then number 4 there, example 4, also say the square root of 25. Okay, so here, the same way I told you, someone who doesn't know, they will not just come and guess to say, oh, the square root of 16, it's 4. They will not do that. But then, how do you go about knowing? You make sure that you break this 16 into smaller units. Not just any smaller units or rather numbers, but those numbers must be in such a way that you say square root. Inside this, you look at the number that when you multiply that number by itself, it will give you 16. Okay? And in this case, it will be difficult. Hence, we are going to say 4, okay, times 4. It will give us what? 16. So the moment in the square root, within the square root, you have two numbers which are the same, then you know that that was the original number, which gave you what? Which gave you the upper number there, which is 16. Or even before you go back to that, to this part, you can simply say, okay, you can simply say, to break this number, you can say 2 times 8. Okay, 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, therefore, you can continue by saying, we can break down these 2 again into 2. So you can say 2 times 2 times 4. Okay, so 2 times 2, it is what? It is 2 times 2, it is 4. And then times 4, it is what? 16. Therefore, you can also break down this 4 into 2. You can also say 2 times 2 times 2. Then to break this 4 again, say times 2. How many 2's we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, if you group these 2's into 2 groups, it takes us back to the first answer I gave to you. Okay, So we are going to find that 2 times 2, it gives us 4. Again times 2 times 2, 4. The moment you have the same number inside the square root, which are 2, you know that those are the two numbers that when you multiply, it gives you the original number that you are finding as the square. So this will give us 4. Therefore, the original number which was multiplied by itself 2 times, the square means 2, power 2. It was 4 to give us 16. So before this 16 existed, there was the multiplication of two numbers there. That is what we mean by the square root. Okay. Now you can try that out and see what answer you can get for number 4. Okay. Okay. So number 5. Number 5. When we say the square, maybe others wouldn't have understood what the square means. A square, for example, if we say 3 times 3. This 3 times 3, it is the same as 3 squared. That is what we mean by square. So 3 times 3, it is the same as 3 squared. 3 squared, it is the same as 3 times 3. But the only mistakes that most of the pupils make, or other students, it's finding a situation where when you say 3 times 3, they will not give you the correct answer. What comes immediately in there in your mind is that 3 times 3, it is 9. No. What it means here is 3 times 3, it will give you 27 and not 9. 3 times 3, it's different from 2 times, so it is different from 2 times 3, which will give you 6, or it is different from 3 plus 3 plus 3. So when you say 3 times 3, or rather if we say 3 squared, it will give you, of course, 9. Second there. Okay, so 3 times 3, it gives you 9 and not the 27 that I mentioned. Okay, so 3 times 3 will give you 9. Okay, but all in all, the main point of interest here is that when you say 3 times 3, it is the same as 3 squared. Okay, it is the same as 3 squared. So in the same vein, they can give you the question to say, we say this is example 6, they can give you the question to say, okay, what is the square root of 9? What is the square root of 9? So in this case, they are asking you that what two numbers were multiplied to get what? 9. What two numbers were multiplied to get 9? So this is a straightforward stuff, but then you don't just go direct to say, oh, the answer here is 3. Yes, it's correct, but then we have to know how did you come up with 3. So hence you show those steps that I used earlier by saying, okay, what we do here is you say square root, you find for a number that you can break down into two equal parts to give you 9, that is 3 times 3. Okay, 3 times 3, since we have two numbers in the square root which are the same, this will result to the final answer as your solution is being finalized. Hence, the answer is 2 there. Okay. Well, after having talked about the square root, now we have to look at the cube root. Okay. Now, when we talk about the cube root, we are just talking about the number which is multiply 3 times to get a certain, the inverse of that root. Okay, now what do I mean by that? If we say, okay, we can say examples, okay, okay. So examples. Uh, when we say number one, what is for the cube specifically, we can say what is 3 to the power 3. Cube simply means power 3. So when we say cube, we're just talking about a situation where you multiply a given number 3 times. That is what we mean by cube. So in this case, this 3 cubic is the same as, it's the same as 3 times 3 times 3. 1, 2, 3. This base, you multiply it, you multiply by itself 3 times. It's just the same concept with the square that we are talking about, where you multiply the number by itself 2 times, that's a square. But in this case, cube simply means 3. You multiply the number by itself 3 times. Now this is where we say, oh, 3 times 3, we got 9, or rather it's 9. So 3 times 3 is 9. Again times 3 simply means you add now 3. So you add 9 3 times. Hence we are going to say the final answer of 3 times 3 times 3, it is, it is 27. Okay, it's 27. So example 2, to find the cube. To find the cube of 2 to the power 3. 2 to the power 3 simply means, or 2 cubic simply means 2. It's the base that you are multiplying 3 times and not the power that you are multiplying 2 times. Don't swap these. Okay? When I say 2 cubic, it's this big number here, which is the base that you are multiplying 3 times, and not the power multiplying 2 times. No? So 2 to the power 3, or rather 2 cubic, it's the same as 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2, it's 4. 4 times 2, it's 8. Hence we have 8. Now for the sake of clarity, before I can even go typical in this same topic, for example 3, I'll use these same results that we got here. Okay, at one point they will say, by the way, the symbol of cube root, it's written like this. It's like this, the square root, but then for cube root, you also indicate a number 3 there to represent cube. Okay, so the cube root of 27. Okay, what is the cube root? Cube root of 27. Now, this simply means we are looking for a number that we can multiply 3 times. That we can multiply 3 times to get 27. What is that number? That of course the number is 3. It is known. But how do we know that we are looking at for the cube root? It's by indicating the 3 there. So the moment you are given the square root there, then it is also written 3. There's a small 3 there. You should know that what they are looking for here, it's a cube root of 27. So what do? We are going to say this is equal to, okay, of course, not forgetting our 3 there. So we're going to say, to break down this 27, we are going to say 3 times what? 9. Okay. Then You continue by saying, not forgetting the symbol for the cube, which is the 3 there. You say 3 times, this 9 can still be broken into 2 equal parts, and that is it. 3 we can say 9, or I mean for 9 we can say 3 times 3. Therefore, if you see that now the numbers which are in the cube root, they are 3 like that. Therefore, that is the cube root of the number that you have been given. Hence, our answer is 3. Okay. Yeah, short explanation is very clear. It's not even that typical. Okay. Well, there we go. So, just like I explained on example 3, we have example 4 here, which is saying, what is the cube root of 8? What is the cube root of 8? The cube root of 8, of course, we know it's 2. But how do you show it? This 8 can be broken down into certain parts. Okay, and what are those parts? We are going to say, okay, of course, not forgetting the symbol for cube, which is a small 3 there. Then I'm going to say this 8 can still be broken into, you can say 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is still 8. But this 4 can still be broken down into how many parts? 2. And that is 2 times 2. Okay? Always without forgetting the symbol of a cube root. Okay? That is these 2 here. And you say times, this 4 can be broken down into 2 by saying 2 times 2. So say times 2 times another 2 there. Hence, we have 3 numbers in the cube root, which are how many? Which are the same. We have 2, 2, 2, 3 2's in the cube root. Hence, the cube root of 8, it gave us 2. Okay, so I challenge you to answer question 4. That's example 5. Question 5, 6. Okay, this is cube root. The cube root of let me say 16. Also, the cube root is the cube root of 36. Those two. Find the cube. No. It should be 27. What is the cube root of 27 and not 16? Okay, so there we go. Okay, and also here we are going to have 64. So you find the cube root of 3. You find the cube root of 27, and you also find the cube root of 64. Okay, so these are the simple questions which I can give, and this must be done by following these steps I was showing you there, or rather that I was teaching there. Okay. Roots of squares and cubes. So examples. Okay. They will say question 1. Solve. Okay. And find this. Solve and find the value of the following. A, will say square of, okay, 16 plus the cube root of 27. Okay, and B, will say cube root of 64. Okay, of 64, say divided by the cube root of 8. So what did you do there? What did you do there? Okay, this is what you do. This is what you do. So solutions. A. So for this first one, we are going to say, okay, 16 plus cube root of 27. Cube root of 27 equals. We are going to follow the steps that we were doing when finding the square root of 16. And we found that the square root of 16 using the steps I taught, it was 4. You write 4 plus the cube root of 27. The number that you multiply 3 times to find 27, it was a 3. We multiplied 3 times. Hence, we say 4 plus 3. So 4 plus 3, the value that you get here it is 7. Okay. Then for B, this one, we say the cube root of 64. The cube root of 64. The cube root of 64 divided by the cube root of 8 divided by the cube root of 8. This is equal to, when you follow those steps I earlier taught for finding the cube root of 64, you are going to end up finding that the cube root of 64, it is 4. The number that you can multiply 3 times. Okay, the number that you can multiply 3 times to get 64, it is 4. Okay, the number that you can multiply 3 times to get 64, it is 4. Divided by the number that you can multiply 3 times the cube root of 8, it is 2. 2 times 2, it is 4 times 2, it is 2. Therefore, 4 divided by 2. How many times does 2 go into 4? The answer is 2. Okay. So that is how you go about such a simple mathematical problem that is under the roots of squares and cubes. These are usually the problems that are there. Okay. Okay, so this marks the end of today's lesson, and see you in the next video.